140 of them, and there are more being added with every update. Some of these exist in real life as well as in the game, such as the brick block you see here. Others are fictional, such as the purpur block. They don't exist in real life at all. I have put together a small list, a collection of blocks that exist in real life and in the game, and I've also chosen a couple of fictional blocks which I think I could find a real life equivalent that look fairly similar. So I've chosen a wide variety, but only a very small sample of what's available in the game. But they also have recently decided that they're going to update the textures and the way they look. So in this video, I'm going to be comparing what they look like in real life and the old textures versus the new textures, which just makes everything a little bit more complicated. So this is the small selection that I have decided to compare today, and I have actually got a bunch of rocks. Just ordered them online. They come from various different sources, and I'll be talking about them one by one as we go through. I made this semicircle pattern of rocks and my cat decided to sit in it, so shout out to my little kitty Pearl, she's very cute. Anyway, we should crack on with the video. I want to sort of go over some of the more rocky blocks rather than the gems. We will come onto those later. The first one I want to cover is polished diorite. So in the old texture, it's got a lot more of those little dark specks that you see on the right hand side, but when they updated the texture, it's much more smooth and warm and grey, so it hasn't got as much of the dark area as there was before. Now, if we actually turn the diorite in real life on its side, you can see what it would look like if it wasn't polished. And so, again, the old texture is fairly accurate, but also the new texture is also fairly accurate as well. It just misses a few of those really dark spots, but that's probably just to keep everything looking kind of warm. Moving on to andesite. These are completely different, in my opinion. Like, the right-hand side has a lot more of a dark grey to the left, which is more of a almost bluey grey, so it's particularly not that realistic or accurate to real life. Having said that, though, I found a granite on the right, which is obviously not andesite, but it's incredibly similar to what you see on the left with the andesite. So this is a good opportunity to say that all the rocks that I got in real life have many different colors and variations, so that's not to say that they aren't accurate in Minecraft, it's just to say that the ones that I picked up from my samples are different. Next up is the red granite, and I've got to say, this is pretty accurate. There's even the little grey specks in there, but when they updated the textures to the new ones, the grey was actually kind of removed from that. Again, kind of, you're seeing a pattern with all of those in the diorite. Those little specks of the different colour are removed to make the whole texture smoother. That makes the block look nicer in my opinion, but it also removes maybe some of the realism. Next up is obsidian. Now this is a mind-blowing one. This is a really interesting thing to compare, because if you see how shiny obsidian is, that's impossible to replicate in Minecraft. You cannot make something super shiny. And another interesting fact about obsidian is that it's super brittle. I just smashed a bit of it together. If I actually threw it on the floor, it would shatter, and lots of little bits came off. But in Minecraft, it's the block that takes longest to mine in the entire game. And I actually found a material very similar to obsidian, but in cube form. So this is what obsidian might look like if it was in a cube form itself. And comparing them, they are very shiny and reflective, which obviously obsidian isn't. So this is almost an impossible task to get realistic. And the actual material itself in terms of brittleness is also not very accurate. Next up is gold. Now obviously I'm not going to go and buy an actual block of gold, that would cost a fortune, but what I have got is some fool's gold called pyrite, which is similar enough in my opinion to compare, and actually it's not too bad. The actual shade of colour is different. The sort of yellow is more butter-like than reflective, but it's not too bad, and the new texture just has more of a shape to it, like it's been molded properly. So I can't complain too much about this one, but then pyrite's not gold. Next up is lapis lazuli. Now this one's a really interesting one because it's accurate, both in the old texture and the new. The interesting thing about the lapis that I got is that it's also got I don't know whether it's impurity or what, but it's not a solid blue block. It's got this sort of green tinge or white tinge in it, and if you just look at the actual blue part of the block, of the real life lapis, you can see that the blue is absolutely spot on. Especially in the new texture, they match up almost perfect. Now we're going to be comparing emerald. That's right, I actually bought some rough cut, untreated and fairly impure emerald. This is what emerald looks like when it's not actually refined into a proper gem that you see on rings. And the colour is almost there. I think that's the more interesting thing. Emerald is far more interesting to look at in real life than in Minecraft, in my opinion, and they changed the green tone with the new textures, so it doesn't quite match up, but you have to remember we're comparing something completely different. Perhaps the block was meant to be more of a gem, and they definitely can't get that translucency across in Minecraft itself. Next up we have quartz. Now I have a tumblestone of quartz rather than a rough cut one, but you get the idea. Quartz itself is slightly translucent, so you can kind of see through it a little bit. It's very just cloudy. The colour is spot on, and the texture is actually fairly similar, but obviously blocks in Minecraft are more than likely meant to be solid rather than see-through in any way, the exception of course being ice and glass, so it's kind of reserved for those things. But bearing in mind that it's a solid colour, I'd say it's pretty accurate. It's kind of got that cloudy feel to it, and remember we are comparing a very reflective, polished stone here rather than a rough cut one. I'd say this one's actually fairly accurate, but at the end of the day, it is just a white stone, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Now moving on to Prismarine, which is a fictional block. For some reason, I thought that Prismarine was real, and it's not. It's completely made up. And I chose a selection of 4 tumblestones that I thought looked like Prismarine, and the first one was a total dud, so we can remove that. And that left me with 3 others, bearing in mind that when I bought them I was just going off pictures. Now the first one is an aquamarine, and the texture of this is spot on for Prismarine. I'd say that this is perhaps one of the biggest inspirations for it. Even in the new texture, it's very, very similar. It's got this bubbly feeling with lots of little cracks, but the colour is way off, as we can see. As we also know, Prismarine is an animated colour, so it actually slowly changes colour. Eventually, it actually matches up to these tumblestones that I have here. They're actually 2 different rocks, but they look extremely similar, so they might as well be one and the same. I think when Prismarine is at the right shade of green, they match up perfectly. So, in my opinion, a mixture of all 3 of these would match up to a Prismarine block. And this is another tumblestone called Bloodstone, and it's actually got specks of red in it, but if you remove that, it's almost the right colour for the updated texture. So this was the closest thing I could find to Dark Prismarine itself. It's kind of interesting to look at the fictional blocks such as Netherrack and absolutely failing to find anything like it. I think the point of having these fictional blocks in the game, or fictional rocks, is so that it is something unique to Minecraft. There is no real life equivalent, and that's brilliant. The red rock that I found is nowhere near either texture, the old or the new. Moving on to the finale. This is the thing that I've been most eager to show you. I actually went and bought some proper diamonds to show you in a little bag, and there's only 5 of them in there, and they're absolutely tiny. Way smaller than you think they are, and I had a really hard time filming them. So this is what diamonds look like in real life. Maybe you already know that. These are very impure diamonds, and Minecraft is very blue. And obviously in real life, well, they could be mistaken for shards of glass, to be honest with you. You have to get a little microscope out to make sure that these diamonds are real. And in Minecraft, if you tried to replicate real life, you would create a block that looks very similar to glass, so a colour had to be chosen for it. And in my opinion, this blue that has been chosen, or has been around since Minecraft began, has become almost iconic, and I think there's no way that it should change whatsoever. So, in conclusion, I think that a lot of the blocks in Minecraft, they do have some basis in reality, and they do at least try and mimic real life in some way. But it also has its quirks, and that's important. The way Obsidian is opposite to how it is in real life, which is brittle, and things like Diamond are a totally different colour to what they are in real life, but they're also really, really difficult to break, which is realistic. So there's almost a basis, in fact, but then Minecraft has taken it forward and adapted it and made it its own thing, which I think is brilliant. And one of my favourite things is the fictional creations of Purpur, Netherrack, Prismarine. All of these are phenomenal things, and Minecraft needs more of them. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed comparing real life to the fictional and real blocks in Minecraft. What did you think? What was surprising? How did you feel about it? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.